very much for being here this morning. I want to introduce myself. I'm Paul Burns. I'm the Executive Director of VPIRG. Hello, crew. The Vermont Public Interest Research Group. And VPIRG is one of the sponsoring organizations here today. Our other partner in holding this summit here today is Toxics Action Center. And you're going to hear from the Executive Director, Sylvia Brody of Toxics Action Center, in just a few minutes. We are going to do a brief welcome, cover some of the logistics of the day before we turn things over to our keynote speaker. We're really, really happy to have Gary Hirschberg here to join us today for that, and then we'll get right into the workshops and the rest of the day. But let me say, just by way of starting out here, that my organization, VPIRG, the reason why we're involved in this is because we work on a broad range of issues. We've been around since 1972, so for 41 years we've been working on a broad range of consumer and environmental issues. And we are typically in battles or campaigns where we are up against very powerful special interests, often corporate interests, that we think have more influence over decision makers than they deserve, and more influence than regular citizens, so much so that at times they tend to drown out the voice of citizens over and with their elected officials. And we'll see that time and time again, I think, with some of the campaigns that you all are working on here today. But that's why we're here, because we need to be smart about the resources that we can bring to bear to these campaigns. We need to be effective. We need to reach out and find others who are interested in these campaigns and who can work collaboratively together. And in that way, we can have the power to win. And that's kind of a theme of this summit here today. So in addition to VPIRG and Toxics Action Center, I do want to note our other lead sponsors of this summit: Rural Vermont, NOFA Vermont, the Conservation Law Foundation, and Vermont Natural Resources Council. All are lead sponsors of this event today. And then there are a number of other groups and other parties who have played a significant role in making this happen. You'll hear more about them throughout the day. And I also want to recognize and thank Vermont Tech for hosting us here today, as they have for many years now. I want to note just some of the goals for today, and I think these are goals that probably all of us share. And one of the top goals that we have is we hope that folks will be inspired, that you will find something to inspire you in this day of action, education, and activity. And so before I go any further, we have just a short video clip that may speak to the issue of inspiration. Let me see if we can make this happen.
Oh, sound.
It is inspiring.
Yeah.
It's night of our lives. We're gonna fight! We will run! And we will live! Shame on you! This could be the greatest night of our lives. But you're gonna let it be the worst.
And I guarantee you, we won't go by in your life. We won't regret walking out, letting them get the best of it.
Well, I'm not going home.
You've gone too far!
And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause.
A day may come when the courage of men fails, but it is not this day.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
I'm not saying it's gonna be easy.
You're gonna work harder than you've ever worked before.
But that's fine, we'll just get tough for winning.
A personal grit is key that shows real determination.
Failure is not an option.
That's how winning is done.
Believe me when I say
We can break this army here.
And we just won for the giver.
But I say to you, what every warrior has known since the beginning of time.
You've got to get mad.
I mean plumb mad dog mean.
if you would be free men, then you will fight to fulfill that promise. Let us cut out their living guts, one each at a time.
And they will know what we can do!
Let no man forget how menacing we are. We are lions.
Like a big bear, man.
This is your time. Seize the day.
Never surrender. Victory or death.
That's the shit.
Who's with me?
Cut!
inspiration off of your list. You have been duly inspired. And look, whether it's that clip or learning from friends and listening to speakers, hearing more about victories that have taken place, learning from folks who have the courage to fight even in situations where they are up against great odds. Let's be inspired. Let's be inspired by each other, and let's try to inspire each other throughout the day. We hope also that you will learn some skills and tools that will help us to be more successful in waging these campaigns and fights. That you will develop and improve some of the priorities for the campaigns that you're working on. That too is part of what we hope to get out of today. And then there's something called networking. That's, you know, that's a popular term these days. I think it's also known as meeting people, communicating, shaking hands, saying hello, and hopefully establishing some relationships from which you will benefit in the future, you know, in the campaigns that you're working on. Let's try to take advantage of that, because there's smart people here. There are people who are working on and interested in many of the same things that you are, and that's going to be really important for us. And then finally, we sure hope that you will find a way to have some fun today. That is an important part of what we do, because we're fighting difficult, challenging campaigns and fights, and it can be frustrating, it can be difficult, it can be exhausting at times. Let's recognize it's also important to find some enjoyment, some enthusiasm, fun in these efforts as well. And that I think is going to be important. Now, I do want to note that on this day that we are gathering here for inspiration and our networking and fun, that we have to know that in this world of ours, there are also some tough things happening. On the way here, I was listening to some of the news reports, and some of you, I think, probably are all familiar with what's going on in the Philippines. One of the world's most devastating storms, a typhoon, has hit that nation and other areas. It has caused incredible harm, and I'm sure we're going to be learning and seeing more about that in the hours and days ahead. And I want us to, you know, hold those folks in our hearts and minds today, because as we work on the campaigns that we're working on here, whether it's climate change or anything else, I think we know and understand that we are not alone, that we are not an island, that we are all part of one world. And what we do here, or what we fail to do here, matters. It matters outside of this room, outside of this community, and outside of this state. It even matters, you know, believe it or not, to people on the other side of the world. And that's going to be important, and I do hope that that's part of the reason why, you know, why we are here. We know that Vermont, for instance, can't solve climate change. We can't do it all by ourselves. But we can take action, we can create models, and we can demand the truth. And we hope that in doing those things that we can be part of the solution, that we can do our part, and that what we do here will matter to people who are being harmed. And as we know, sometimes that harm is coming right here home to us in Vermont. So that is part of it. And let me just say, too, that speaking of truth, some of you may have seen about a month ago, the LA Times newspaper decided that it would no longer print letters to the editor from individuals who questioned whether climate change exists, so-called climate deniers. And the rationale of the editor of the editorial page there was pretty simple. He said, we don't intentionally print falsehoods in our newspaper, because if we do, then we need to print a correction, and you know, what's the point of printing a letter that you have to put a correction right beneath it? So they said, we're going to skip all that. We're simply not going to print letters that we know to be false or based on false information. And you might think, well, that's a bold move. But really, what would you expect of a newspaper that has some journalistic integrity? You know, you hope that they will not print, knowingly, falsehoods. And then we come to Vermont, where 1 week ago today, the Caledonia Record newspaper, so have you ever heard of, read the Caledonia Record? Some of you have. Probably not in line for a Pulitzer, but the Caledonia Record itself, 1 week ago, in their own editorial, questioned the existence of climate change and suggested that those of us who are working on climate change are fanatics. Well, I guess if working to try to prevent the devastation that's happening today that people are now trying to recover from in the Philippines and working to try to prevent that same kind of devastation from happening there or here or any place else makes me a fanatic in the eyes of the Caledonian Record. I can live with that. Count me fanatic number 1. And maybe we'll have fanatic number 2 or 3 or 100 in the audience today, and I hope that we do. Because we are not fanatics to want to do something about climate change. But what we are is willing to engage in a difficult struggle that is not going to be easy to win, but it is winnable, and it is possible for us to take steps that really do matter, that matter here and that matter outside of Vermont. And I hope that you will join together with your friends and colleagues here today to make a difference, to understand the value of that, and to go have some fun while you're doing it. So that is my welcome, and I am going to turn things over to Sylvia, and I hope you have a great day today. Thank you.